Okay, so we are recording, and I'll shift to speaker view here. And then let's see here. I'm just going to try and pin myself. There we go. Pin. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's get started here. So really what I want to talk about today is just how to improve your sleep. Hopefully you've started to see some improvements with changing your nutrition. But I know that, sleep is a really big issue for, I think, like mainly women over 30, but even more so in your 40s and 50s. So I think this is a very important topic. And I want to start by kind of just talking about sort of my experience with sleep, because I have been struggling with insomnia. Well, not anymore, but I used to struggle with insomnia. And I probably started having like issues with my sleep when I was about 32. And I remember at the very beginning, I couldn't fall asleep. And eventually it got to the point where I would fall to sleep, but I would wake up in the middle of the night. And had I known what I know now, I would have been able to pinpoint what was happening. But back then I didn't really have that kind of information. But I remember I went to the doctor a few times to see what I could do. And every time I went, he wanted to give me antidepressants. That was the solution that I was provided. And I was like, no way, I am not starting antidepressants. I'm just not. And I just kept coming back and trying different things. And when I say that I have tried everything, I have tried so many things. So I've tried supplements. I tried tracking my sleep. I purchased this course about sleep from the Paleo Mom. I had a light box that I would sit in front of in the morning. I got another special course all about like micro movements to improve sleep. I went to sleep summits. I have this mat in my bedroom that has spikes on it, and you lie on it and it's supposed to force the body into the rest and digest. What else did I take? I was taking bioidentical progesterone for a while. Like I feel like I've honestly tried so many things. It kind of culminated after I had my daughter, and obviously, 100% sleep deprived for numerous reasons, because she would wake up. And it culminated into like I started getting very anxious, and eventually I went to see a naturopathic doctor, found out I had adrenal fatigue. And that's when I started really making changes to stress management and nutrition. And that's when I really started to notice an improvement in my sleep, particularly when I started to change my nutrition and started to get rid of carbohydrates, which, for me, it wasn't like standard American diet to low carb. It was standard American, and then it was clean eating, and then it was paleo, and then it was keto. And like every time I kind of shifted away from carbohydrates, I started to feel just better and better. And now I can pretty much go to bed and fall asleep within 15 minutes. And I have a good sleep, and I wake up in the morning. My alarm goes off at 4:45, and I wake up and I'm not tired. I'm not tired at all throughout the day, which hopefully you guys have noticed at this point, that your energy levels are more stable and you don't get that afternoon crash. But I never feel tired, and I'm now 46, and I was way more tired in my 30s than I am in my 40s. So that's what I want to talk about. So the strategies that I want to talk about today. So I have like 7 different strategies that I've tried, and I've kind of created like different categories for them. Now, you will not be able to apply every single tactic that I'm going to describe today, but if you are struggling with sleep, you can definitely pick and choose from what I've got. So the first strategy, I'm going to go through them, and then we'll get into the tactics. So Strategy number 1 is to make sleep a priority. Strategy number 2 is to create the right environment. Strategy number 3 is to create a sleep ritual. Strategy number 4 are just the different daytime habits and behaviors that you can apply to improve your sleep. Strategy 5 is the evening habits and behaviors that you can apply to improve your sleep. And then strategy 7 is nutrition, which you already know mostly about. And then that's strategy 6. And strategy 7 is kind of like, if you still have hardcore insomnia, what you can do about it. So sort of like some more, maybe like, you know, just more aggressive tactics, I guess might be the right word. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is to make sleep a priority. That is the first one. And this is something that I think a lot of women don't do. But if you think of like how you raised your children or how you are raising your children, they have a bedtime. That bedtime is like, say, 7 or 7:30 or 8. And that is their bedtime every single night. And we make that a priority for them, but we don't do that for ourselves. But just as kids have a bedtime, adults need a bedtime too. And so what I would recommend as just a very basic starting point is set a bedtime. Ideally, I would love that bedtime to be no later than 10. But for some of you, that might be a stretch, like Karen in tonight. Because you're listening to this. But like if you're going to bed at 1 or 12 or 1, like start to back that up and at least set a bedtime and commit to like being in bed, say by 11:30 or whatever it may be. But pick a bedtime and do the same thing every single night, even on the weekends. And like your body will 100% get it will get accustomed to your bedtime. And especially when you add in a sleep routine, which I'll talk about next. But if you do the same thing every night before bed, I'm telling you that once your body kind of adapts, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it will eventually adapt. And the moment your body, like if you go to bed at the same time, your body will just know, and it's just like, okay, time for sleep, and you will like go out so quickly. So for me, it's like my lights go off at about 9 o'clock. So I'll finish this presentation with you guys tonight at about 8:45. And as soon as I shut off my laptop, I'm going to bed. I'm already drinking my sleepy time tea. I will go to bed at 9 o'clock. I will turn off the lights, and I can almost guarantee that by 9:15, I will be sleeping. But I do the exact same thing every night, and I go to bed at the same time every night, even on the weekends. Like obviously if I'm seeing friends, I will go out a little bit later, but a lot of times I'm not, especially right now because we can't see anyone. So even on the weekends, I go to bed at the same time because I can, right? And I don't need to stay up later. Why am I staying up later? If I'm staying up later, it's only to watch Netflix. The other important thing about making sleep a priority. So number 1 is set a bedtime and stick to it. Try to make it before 10 if you can. And then the next thing is you want to make sure you're getting about 8 hours of sleep. That is sort of the magic number. They say anywhere between 7 and 9. But if you aim for 8, that would be perfect. Now, in order to do that, the best thing that you can do, I think someone's trying to get in. Let me just let Tammy in here. Okay, so the best thing you can do is you can start to think about what time you have to get up, and from there count backwards. So don't, so if you have to get up every day at, like I said, I get up at 4:45. So I have to be in bed by 9 if I want to get close to my 8 hours of sleep. If I were to get up at, say, on the weekend, sometimes I'll push that a little bit. Like one day a week, I don't set an alarm, right? So one day a week, I might wake up at like 6:30 just because I'm not setting an alarm. So that one particular night, I might sometimes allow myself to go to bed a little bit later, But again, because at this point, my body is so used to going to bed at a specific time, like I am drowsy, and I'm just like, why am I fighting this? I just go to bed. And then on that night, I usually have like a good 9-hour sleep, which is great, right? And it's so good for you. So that's the first strategy, is just making sleep a priority. The second strategy is to create the right environment. And so here are a couple of things, and some of this stuff you may have heard before, but number one is keeping your room as dark as possible. And this was really important for me when I struggled with insomnia. So making sure that you have, you don't want to have any light coming in from the exterior. I live in the middle of the bush now, so there's no lights. So the only thing that disturbs me now is when there's a full moon and it's quite light in my bedroom. And when it is, I wear like those, the eye, like the blinders or the eye masks or whatever, so that I don't have any light whatsoever. Because you may have heard that your eyes are very sensitive to light and that can disrupt your circadian rhythm. Well, apparently so is your skin. And so definitely your eyes, but apparently even your skin. So like any of the sort of big sleep gurus out there, people that are really into biohacking, and really taking advantage of your biology, they are like, it should be completely closed off. There should be no light coming in, like no like little even alarm clocks with like, you should see no light. So as much as possible, aim for that. You also want to keep your room cool. So that's another thing for me. Like now I keep my windows slightly open, especially these days, because I'm way warmer at night than I ever used to be in my life. But really making sure that your room is cool. And that might mean opening the window, it might mean turning on the AC depending on where you're at and season and all that, but keeping your room very cool. The other big thing, like just from an environment perspective, is this comes from experts, because trust me, I've listened to numerous experts on this topic. But another thing is to use your bedroom, like your sleeping environment, strictly for sleeping or sex, and that is it. No reading, like no like doing your work in bed, or going on Pinterest or anything like that. Keep all of that separate. And again, it's weird, but it's like your brain starts to make a connection between like your bed and sleeping, and that is it. That's all we want your brain to connect the bed with. We don't want your brain to associate the bed with like reading a stressful email. And then finally, when it comes to just creating the environment, the right environment, keeping your room tidy. Now this is going to be definitely for the women that are like more like me, that have like a little bit of an A-type personality and who like to have everything ordered and, clean. And you wouldn't tell if you saw my house these days, but anyways, again, it's kind of like this brain thing of like, for me, if my room is a complete disaster, I just can't relax the same way as I can when my room is clean and my clothes have been put away and it's just not sheer chaos. So just making sure that your room is kind of like you've created this environment to let your mind relax, because ultimately that's what we want. We want our mind to relax. Okay. So third strategy is to create a sleep ritual. Some people call this sleep hygiene, but the idea is that you are winding your body down to prepare for sleep. And again, this kind of goes back to think of like how we put children to bed, right? We don't go from like letting them watch some kind of action-packed movie to putting them in bed and turning off the lights. Like there's this whole routine, like they get a glass of milk, and then, well, my daughter does, she gets a glass of milk and then she brushes her teeth, and then we get into bed, we read books, I sing her a song, I scratch her back, I pick out a stuffy, I go in a second time. So there's this whole ritual, and it's all part of winding her down. And as adults, we need that too. And again, this is often called either sleep ritual or sleep hygiene. And so here's what I like to, or I don't do it as much anymore because my sleep is good. But when my sleep was not as good, here's what I would do. This is exactly what I would do. So I would set an alarm on my phone to go off 1 hour before my planned bedtime, at which point I would start my ritual. And so when the alarm would go off, first thing that would happen is no electronics whatsoever. So no iPhone, no iPad, no laptop, no TV. I would get rid of all electronics, because all of these electronics, they emit this blue light that disrupts the production of melatonin, which is one of the hormones that you need in order to fall asleep. And so when you're staring at blue light, which I'm doing right now, by the way, but it's okay, I'll probably take some melatonin tonight. But when we're staring at this blue light, again, it just stops the body from producing melatonin. So again, I shut down all of my different electronics, or I would 1 hour before bed, or at least half an hour before bed. And then within that hour, again, I would try to think about doing different behaviors that would just help my body relax. And it could be different things. So it could be like taking a hot shower. Like these days, I always shower at night. I'm not a morning shower person. I'm a night shower person. And it's just part of my wind down routine. So a hot shower or a hot bath. I typically do my meditation in the evening right before bed. I have my cup of tea. It's herbal tea. It's usually some kind of like sleepy time tea. I'll read a book, but it's not, I'm never going to choose like a book about fitness or nutrition or whatever it may be. Like nothing that's going to make me over, like personal development, nothing that's going to make me think too much. I'm going to find like, usually, honestly, I do like teenage novels because they're brainless and they don't get me overthinking things. What else? A little, maybe sometimes like some stretching or some restorative yoga or any kind of like activity that would help my body move towards relaxation. I would add into that sort of half hour to 1 hour leading up to my bedtime. And ideally, as I was saying before, when it comes to like setting your bedtime, if you do the exact same thing every night, it becomes a cue and it becomes a trigger for your body, so that your body knows like, oh, wait a minute, we've turned off all the electronics and now we're having a hot bath. This means we are getting ready for bed. And it's your body just starts to know those triggers, and it just helps you to produce those hormones that are going to help you fall asleep. Okay, so that is number 3. I'm taking a sip. Okay, so strategy number 4. So these are daytime habits that you can, because really how you sleep at night starts with what you do in the morning. And again, a lot of the things that I'm teaching you right now, these are all different things that I tried when I was really suffering with adrenal fatigue and terrible insomnia. And it was just so freaking frustrating because I could sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and just be completely wide awake for 2-3 hours, and it would stress me out, and I would just be thinking about it. And I knew that poor sleep also meant poor health and like a shortened lifespan. And I was just like, my whole brain would start like, then I was anxious. And so I like I said, I tried a lot of techniques, but see, here are some of the daytime things that I started doing. So again, this was all from research that I did on adrenal fatigue. And when you do have adrenal fatigue, making sure that you have enough sleep is like super, super key, because not having enough sleep is a stressor, and that stressor adds to the adrenal fatigue, which adds to the insomnia, which is a sign and symptom of adrenal fatigue. So you kind of get in this like, loop, right? So not the easiest thing to get out of, but I am proof that it can be done. Okay, so what I would do, and I never thought that I would ever sleep when I was in my mid 30s and 40s. I thought this was my life for the rest of my life. Okay, so number one is to get sunlight in your eyes as soon as possible early in the day, which is obviously very hard in the winter if you live in Canada, which is why I recommend, if you do struggle with insomnia, getting, like I said, this light box. So you can get them, like I got mine at Walmart, and it's just a small box, and the rays that come out of it they imitate the sun. And so what I would do is basically in the morning, I would sit down with my coffee or whatever I was doing, my breakfast, and I would have the light box there. And so while I was eating or drinking my coffee or whatever, the light I would get immediate daylight. And what that does is it helps to get your circadian rhythm back into the cycle that it should be, right? Because what happens when you have adrenal fatigue and chronic insomnia is that your circadian rhythm is dysfunctional. It's all over the place. And you want to try and get it back onto a regular schedule. And so giving your body this shot of sunlight early in the morning can be really helpful for that. The other important thing was to move every day, to get outside and move every day, but also not to overtrain, because overtraining is a stressor on the body. And again, if you have too much stress, then you can throw your adrenals out of whack, which will mess up with your circadian rhythm, right? So they all kind of come and play together. Stress management obviously is something that you can do during the day. I know I sound like a broken record with stress management, but it really is that important. So I just started, that's when I got into meditation, is when I had insomnia. And I knew that I had to figure out how to get my cortisol levels back in check, because your insomnia is 100% related to cortisol. So I knew I had to get that back in check. And so meditation, and like I said, like these small movements, and this small movements, I can't remember the guy, I've got the website, but anyways, his program is called Rest Assured. And they're like these little tiny micro movements that you do. So it's a form of meditation, because what it does is it draws you into the present, and you focus on these little tiny micro movements. That was really helpful for me. And I would do like some during the day and some at night. This guy has this program, and you listen to these CDs and he tells you what to do, and he's got a very calming voice. Anyways, that was really helpful for me. And then when I was really suffering badly, I cut out caffeine. That was like the first time I cut out caffeine. I just knew that, again, drinking the caffeine would spike my cortisol. Spiking my cortisol all the time would cause more stress. That would just worsen the whole problem. And so I went caffeine free. I would drink decaf, but I went caffeine free. And that was a big one for me, including chocolate. I wouldn't even eat like dark chocolate in the evening. I cut it off by 2 p.m. So those were my daytime habits. Now, evening habits, I've already talked about a couple of them, but there's a couple more that can be helpful. So a lot of this comes from the paleo world. That's where I learned it from. But again, just as in the morning, you want to expose yourself to light as soon as possible, in the evening, you want to reduce your exposure to light. And it kind of goes back to like how our cave woman ancestor might have lived. In the evening, she did not have a bright spotlight like I have right now. She had a fire, and it was like this amber color, and it was very low. And so it's the concept of sort of evening lighting is to really reproduce that fire. So you can actually buy amber light bulbs. And that's what I did when I was suffering. I had amber light bulbs in my bedroom. and I would dim, I had all the other lights on dimmers, and I would dim everything down after dinner. I remember like my mom and my dad had to like live through this, and my husband, when I had insomnia, they would come to visit us at our house. I'd be like, after dinner, I'd like dim lights everywhere because I was trying to, again, just, have less of an impact of, they call it light pollution, right? So I would dim everything. You can even buy these special glasses. They're amber shades. Again, really big in the paleo community, and they're like glasses that just have like an orange tint to them. And so what those allow you to do is not dim all of the lights in your house, but just put these shades on. And so you would put them on as the sunlight starts to dip, because we are supposed to be following the circadian rhythm of the sun. So you put on these amber shades. You can continue to watch TV. You can continue to look at your iPad. You can continue to have the lights on, because you have these amber shades on, you're blocking out all of that blue light. There are also now a lot of different apps that you can apply. The one that everybody should be doing on your computers is something called F-Lux. So F.Lux. So just look that up, and what it will do, and I have it on my computer right now, like you can't see it, but my screen is orange. So what that does, it just applies that amber tint right across your screen. So again, it just blocks out that blue light that has an effect on your melatonin. You can do the same on your phone. Like I'm pretty sure every iPhone now has that setting where you can say like, put on the night setting, and it just makes everything orange. I've got that on my phone as well. The other thing to think about, like also obviously the sleep hygiene that I talked about and sleep ritual. The other couple of things to think about is like really just not allowing any kind of stressful thought come into your brain late at night. So typically speaking, like right now on my phone, if you guys were to text me, I would not know until tomorrow morning. I have a do not disturb that starts at 7 p.m. And even my husband can't get in touch with me past 7 p.m. because I know from experience that if I have it on and I get a text from either my husband or someone in my family or one of my clients or whoever it may be, I'm going to think about that text all night long. And I also avoid like emails as well. So no text messages, no emails, no social media, nothing that's going to get the hamster wheel turning, because I will not get a good night's sleep. The other thing that really is helpful for me is I try to do a brain dump before bed, because I have monkey brain. So my brain is constantly thinking. I'm constantly thinking about you guys and my business and my nutrition. Like I'm constantly thinking. So for me, it's really helpful before bed if I just dump all of my ideas onto a piece of paper, because once they're on paper, my brain relaxes and my brain's like, okay, you don't have to remember this until the morning. I get it down on paper and then I can relax and my brain relaxes. It sounds silly, but honestly, your brain is trying to protect you always, right? So if your brain thinks like, oh my God, we need to remember these brilliant ideas, you're just going to think about them all night. But the moment I put it down on paper, I can relax and I don't have to stress about it. Anything else for the evenings? I think that's it. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so moving on, I've got 2 more to go here. So the next one is like nutrition strategies. So as I was saying at the very beginning, for me, again, all of this stemmed from my research into adrenal fatigue and who I was obviously getting my information from, which came from the paleo community. And inside the paleo community, when it came to adrenal fatigue, what you wanted to do is not go to bed jacked up on carbs, for sure. But some of the different things that I tried was I've tried doing like a high protein snack right before bed, which you guys could totally try. You know, I know some of us are in a phase where we're trying to do the fasting, but sleep is more important than fasting. Okay, sleep is more important than fasting. So if you are struggling to fall asleep or getting a good night's sleep, I would much prefer that you work on a couple of the techniques that I'm about to give you and see if it improves your sleep over trying to fast for 14 hours or 12 hours or 16 or whatever you're doing. I would much prefer that you focus on making sleep a priority. So what you can try is you could try like a high protein snack right before bed. You could try a combination of fat and protein right before bed, because a lot of times, especially if you're waking up in the middle of the night, what was happening to me and what might be happening to you is that your blood glucose levels could be dropping too low because your body hasn't quite adapted to burning fat yet. And when your blood sugar levels dip too low, your body uses adrenaline, norepinephrine, and cortisol to give you a shot of sugar, and that will wake you up. And that's what was happening to me, because I had blood sugar management issues way before I went into low carb. And so my blood sugar levels were always all over the place. And in the middle of the night, when my body had finished using up all the carbohydrates, it had no idea how to access the body fat in my body. And so it would give me this shot of cortisol. Now, because I have much more metabolic flexibility and I've been eating this way for 3 years, that's why I think that I have now these epic sleeps, because my body never has to worry about nutrition or food or energy. It can just go right into burning fat while I'm sleeping, which is awesome. So that's another thing. The other thing that you could try is you could try a mug of bone broth before bed. That's another one. And another one that I used to do, and I don't know how many carbs are in this because I don't know what it works out to be, but this is a great one that I got from one of the sleep experts out there. What's his name? I can't remember. But you basically take coconut milk. You can do a combo of coconut milk and water, and you take a banana peel, right? So give your kids or the rest of your family the banana, and then you take the peel and you boil the peel in the coconut milk mixture for like 5 minutes, because the peel is where all the magnesium is. And so it pulls out the magnesium from the peel. And then to that, you can add some cinnamon, and you could even add a little bit of honey. And this was the sleep doctor. He called himself the sleep doctor. This was his magical potion. And I used to drink that every night before bed. And so again, it would give me some calories, right? Just before bed, I would get this shot of calories that would help me cruise through the night without having like this blood sugar drop. I don't have to do it anymore, because now, again, I have that metabolic flexibility, but that was really helpful for me when I was struggling with insomnia. Okay, final strategy. So this one, again, this is for the women who feel like they have tried it all and it's still not working. So for you, what I would recommend is, obviously, I can't recommend supplements, but I can definitely give you some information on the different supplements that I've tried. And then what I would want you to do is go and talk to either your doctor or your naturopath, or you can go to the health food store, or you can do your own research. All I can do is give you information, and then I leave it in your hands. But some of the supplements that I have tried, melatonin is my favorite. I don't take it every night, but I do take it quite often because, again, I microdose it. I just have a little bit. I have read that it can stimulate the body. It can be that signal. And for me, it's part of like that sleep ritual I was talking about. It doesn't have to be much. Like I get the dropper and I have like 2-3 drops, and it's almost like it just tells my body, oh, time to stimulate the melatonin. I don't know, or it's all in my head, but whatever, it works. So melatonin, magnesium can be really helpful, but you have to watch which one you're getting. So magnesium citrate will give you diarrhea. So if you're constipated, maybe you'll like that. If not, magnesium biglycinate is probably the best one. There's also passion flower, GABA. Then there's another one, oh, valerian root. Those are sort of like the main ones. And then there's phosphoadrenaline, I think it's called. It's a very long word. I can find that for you. This can be really helpful for women who feel wired and tired at night, who likely have like those really excess levels of cortisol. And I can send you information on all of these. Again, I just can't recommend them. It's outside of my scope of practice, but all of those. The other thing that you can do is you can go and talk to your doctor about possibly supplementing with bioidentical progesterone, which again, that was a big game changer for me. I started supplementing the bioidentical progesterone at the same time as I reduced my exercise levels, at the same time as I switched over to even more low carb. So it was probably a kind of a combination of those three things. So low carb nutrition, bioidentical progesterone, less exercise, no more like high intensity spin classes. And when I combine those things together, I'm now at a point that I can sleep really, really well. So that was a lot. Feel free to unmute yourselves now and you can ask any questions and we can kind of go over anything that you want with regards to sleep. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything? Do you have a question for me, Carrie?
No, I think that was really good.
Okay.
I don't really make time for that sleep ritual.
No, okay. Thank you for the thumbs up, Tammy. Yeah, it can be really helpful. I mean, I know what you mentioned is that since you've been eating the lower carb, your sleep has improved. So you may not need it. You know, my sleep ritual has gotten shorter now that I am low carb. I don't need it as much anymore. I used to need it, like I really needed it. But these days, I like I said, like I'll hang up and you know, for 4 or 5 minutes here and I'll be going straight to bed and I will probably be asleep by 9:15. So, but again, if you are struggling with insomnia, the sleep ritual and just training your body and training your brain to do the exact same thing every night can really help. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
You're welcome. And Caroline, thank you for saying. So Caroline says, thanks, Haley. Really interesting. That's awesome. You guys can ask me questions. Again, I don't expect you to apply everything I just gave you. That was just a summary of everything I've tried for the past almost 15 years now. But if you are struggling whatsoever, reach out to me and I can guide you as to where to begin. But that's what I had for you tonight, ladies. You know, sleep really is crucial. So if you are struggling, reach out to me. We can go through them. We can talk about best practices. So have a wonderful evening. On that note, get to bed, go to sleep, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.